Hey guys, today we got a pretty special video because we have a pretty unique product here from Creality, which is called the Sonic Pad. And I'm very excited to see what this thing is capable of, as we should be able to speed up our prints and also retain the quality. So in this video, we're going to unbox it, set it up with one of the printers, and see what kind of prints we can get with it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Let's get started. Alright, so this is the Creality Sonic Pad that runs on Klipper software, which really enhances the printing on a 3D printer. So I want to say up front before we get into it is I'm more of a hardware kind of person and not so much software. So this might be more of a simplified overview of what this thing is capable of. So this is the box that it comes in. There's a nice little picture here of what the pad looks like. It is quite thin box. And on the back we can see it just says Creality and Klipper, and that's about it. Let's go ahead and open it up. Alright, and this is what we see inside. Quality certified, and we can see the Sonic Pad here, so it is quite large. Let's go ahead and pull it out. Also pretty thick. Let's go ahead and see what it looks like. It's quite exciting here. So yeah, quite large, and we have a very nice size screen. There's a protector over it. I'm going to leave it for now. It is all plastic. On the sides we got two USB ports here. On the other side we got a couple light indicators and a power button, looks like. Nothing too much on the bottom. We got a little foot here that's rubber, and not much on the top either. Now if we go to the back, there's quite a bit more here. We got the Creality logo there, some information here, the product name, the model. It is a 12-volt operating unit with DC voltage here that plugs in the back. We got a couple more USB ports here, a lane port that connects straight to your internet with like an Ethernet cable, and also a sensor plug. Also we got two little holes here for something, it doesn't say what. And then going down here we got this nice design pattern, and also you guys can see that's a speaker right here. Now we also have some pretty cool little feet that come out, or legs, that you can set it down and it'll stand. Very nice. So it appears that this pad here integrates with the printer and kind of takes over the UI through a USB cable. So definitely pretty interesting. Let's go ahead and see what else is in the box. So we got a manual underneath that, and it is quite thick and goes over of how to hook this thing up and get started. And here guys, hopefully you can see all of the specs to the Sonic Pad. Alright, so it looks like not much left in here. We do have a couple boxes here that have, looks like, all of our cables. So we get a micro USB to USB. Looks like an extension cable to our sensor. Some adapters to the wall plug, which I guess this is kind of a universal kit here. Got a USB thumb drive that probably has some stuff in there that we need. A little adapter from micro USB to whatever that is. And also another adapter from micro USB to USB-C. And the last piece here appears to be the sensor, or the G sensor, which I think we install onto the printer to capture the G-force data. Alright, so let's see what's in this other one. The power adapter with a couple more adapters. Looks like here we have the US type. Let's go ahead and click it on there. There we go. And the adapter is at 12 volt 3 amps. It seems to have a pretty decent length cord of about 4 feet. And that is everything that's in the box. Alright, so in the manual, starting with first use, they kind of tell you what to do in steps. So we're going to plug the power in the pad, and then we're going to need to connect our pad to the printer. And then there's a bunch of other steps here of how to get it all going. So let's go ahead and move some of this stuff out of the way, and we'll bring in our Ender-3 version 2. And this is actually the Neo edition, which is Creality's latest printer. But if you have the regular version 2, it should work just fine with this. So on the Sonic Pad, let's go ahead and connect our power. And we'll also grab our interface cable. And I don't know if I mentioned it, guys, but it is braided and quite nice. And I'm going to hook it up to the top one because the bottom one actually says cam. So I think that's for like a camera option. So on the Ender-3 version 2, we actually have a micro USB plug, and we should be able to plug it in quite simply. Now, if you have any other kind, you have the adapters, so you can use those. So let's go ahead and plug that in. So after that, we need to power on the Sonic Pad, which the power button's on this side here. So let's click it. There's a little light here. A couple lights, red and blue. I'm sorry, green and blue. Oh wow, and that actually powers on our printer too. So I don't have the power on the printer, and it went ahead and booted this thing up. Wow, that's quite interesting. So somehow the screens interact between the two systems. All right, so looks like we've got to the next menu. Hopefully you guys can see that. It zoomed you in a bit. Actually, let's go ahead and take this protector off, and maybe we can see better. But yeah, the screen is very nice and crisp, so very good resolution there. So for the next part, it's asking our language. So it's English, and you got, I guess, only 2 to choose from. And it does make a little sound when I click on it. So let's click next step. So we got to agree to the privacy policy. So I guess we'll do that. Choose our region. Quite a lot of stuff to choose from here. Do we need to go to United States or what? Oh, it says America. Very interesting. That's a little too much detail on the region. Okay, so I feel like this was definitely unnecessary here. Okay, so we do have New York here, North Dakota, Panama, Phoenix. I don't know, I'm just gonna pick that one, honest. Whoops. Whatever. That step is much harder than it needs to be. Next. Okay, so now it's asking us to log in into the Wi-Fi. So this is optional, and I'm going to skip this as I don't really like logging in randomly with different things. So if you want to do this, you'll have a lot more options. But we're going to keep it pretty basic today and just get it going. So let's skip. It's asking us to name the pad, which we'll just keep it at Creality. Actually, let's delete the Creality and just call it Sonic Pad. Okay. And now we need to choose our printer. So even though we have the Neo, which is practically the same thing, and you guys can see we have quite a few V2s here. So we got a 4.2.7 with CR Touch, and then a 4.2.7 without one, and then the pretty popular 4.2.2 with the CR Touch and without. And at the end here, you guys can see we have other models. So I'm not going to click on that right now, but supposedly you can integrate this thing with any 3D printer, but you're going to have to know what you're doing a little bit with that. So, but if you do have an Ender-3 version 2, this should be very easy for you, or any of these more fancy printers like the S1 Pro and the S1. So let's go with Ender-3 version 2 with the CR Touch because that's what we have. Click next. So now it wants us to insert this thumb drive that it came with into the bottom port here on the side. So now we're going to click on Flash Firmware. Okay, so now it wants us to unplug it and plug it into the printer. And we obviously can't do that because we used this thumb drive. So I think what we should have done, so let's go back, is unplug this thing, because it's actually asking us to plug in the 3D printer micro SD card into here, which we have right here. And every Creality printer comes with the adapter, so we just need to plug it into that, the card itself, and then we can plug it into the Sonic Pad and flash the firmware on that. All right, so simple as that. It should be written on there. So now we're gonna unplug it, take the micro SD card back out and plug it into the printer. And now I'm gonna hit the power button on the printer itself, and it powers up. So let's click next here. Okay, so I guess we should have clicked this and then powered it on, but no problem. So we are connected with the cable. Firmware has been successfully flashed, but for some reason we're getting some kind of error also here. It says to reset the firmware. So I'm not sure if we did that right or not, but let's try to restart. All right, guys, so I had to go a few times and I accidentally went back, so I have to do it again. And actually the key is to have this unplugged. I'm gonna use that as a dummy because it already has the firmware on the micro SD card. So, and now we're gonna plug this in. We'll wait a few seconds. And there it goes. So you kind of have to give it a little time. That's what I noticed. If you're too quick with it, it doesn't have enough time to process whatever it's doing between the two systems, and you end up getting errors and stuff. So yeah, it's not as flawless as I would like it, but it does connect eventually. It's just a little bit of back and forth. But yeah, for me, it took a few tries to get it to work, as the instructions in here and in the pad were kind of contradicting with when to plug in the cord for the communication. So in any case, so we're going to do some self checks, looks like. Let's click start. So it says that the hot end fan should be spinning. It is. Let's go to the next step. All right, no, it is running. Okay, now our parts cooling fan, and I heard it turned on here. and it is working. So that's good. Next step. Okay, now it looks like it's going to do homing. Zoom you guys out here a bit. Alright, so it did home. So far so good. Next step. It says probe calibration. Okay, so it wants to set the z-axis offset. And I'm just going to use a Post-it note. Alright, so it's still setting up, looks like. So we're way too high and we need to go down quite a bit. So here we can choose how much down we can go. So I'm going to go 1 millimeter at a time. Actually, let's go 0.5 millimeter. So we're setting the gap between the nozzle and the bed. But what's interesting is our bed's not even heated. So, all right, here we go. We're really close. Let's go to 0.01. Okay, that's too tight. Go up just a little bit. Let's see. Okay, so I'm going to leave it a little looser than tighter since we're not even heated. All right, so I guess we're good there. Next step. Okay, so now it wants to do out of bed leveling, and it's actually going to do 25 points. Wow, that's definitely more than the stock firmware, which does 16. So let's click on temperature setup here, and yeah, okay, yeah, we can preheat the bed right here. So let's just preheat it to 60. Okay, so it's saying it's preheating. Very nice pad. I love the quality of how everything's laid out, and the resolution is just really clean and crisp. And up here you guys can see we have the bed and the nozzle temperatures. Alright, so we're finally at 60 and we can go ahead and start our calibration. So it's going to go 25 times and probe the bed. Alright, so it looks like we're all set up there, and our tolerances are very small, so it doesn't have to adjust much, and we get some kind of mesh here of what our bed looks like in 3D. And so blue is like perfect, then orangey, yellow, whiter parts here is medium, and then red is not good. So we're not in the red at all, so I guess we are good to go. So let's click next step. And it says, congratulations, the printer is in perfect condition. So let's start your printing journey. Very interesting. Start your experience. All right, and looks like that's our home menu there. So we got some kind of graph down here. And if you guys notice there in the background, our original screen is just staying lit up with the Creality logo. All right, so let's take a closer look at the screen here and everything that's on it. So on the top, we can see our nozzle temperature, our bed temperature. We got the Ender-3 version 2 with out of bed leveling. Here we have that graph, and it looks like it's representing the hot end and the bed temperature. We got a big stop button here, and looks like that just stops everything. Okay, it looks like it completely disconnects from the printer also. Wow. There we go. So it takes a couple tries to connect, which is interesting, but it does connect. And then again, maybe I'm too hastily and think it needs a little more time to communicate before it connects. So over here we have the main buttons. So we got move, and that's going to move all of the axes. We can home it, the usual stuff that you find in move. Let's go back. We got preheating. So we got to click on these buttons here to preheat PLA or PETG. So PETG is 250 and 80 on the bed, and PLA is 260 on the bed. So, and you can adjust the parameters here. And you guys can see how our graph changes there as the nozzles start preheating and the bed. Control, we can control our extruder from here. The fan, temperature, just kind of redundant there, and motor off. And we got configure, manual bed leveling, out of bed leveling, Z probe calibration, network settings, local information. What is that? Okay, so that's everything about the printer, or I guess the screen and the printer is connected to. We also have camera here, which you can install a USB camera to this thing and have a live view. Other settings, so screen brightness, break screen, so you can make it where it goes dim after a certain amount of time. So here it's set at 5 minutes. You can also set it to never if you never want it to turn off. And then we got more settings here. Oh, we actually have some themes. Oh, well, there's only one theme. All right. So yeah, quite a few things here that you can mess with. We even have advanced options. So yeah, definitely goes quite detailed of everything here. We're going to keep it simple for this video. And obviously, you know, you can connect this thing to the internet and be able to access the printer from anywhere remotely and things like that. So yeah, this Sonic Pad here is quite capable. for more advanced and demanding features. So yeah, for the last button here, we got print, and if we click that, we can read here different types of places. So we got local, nothing for some reason there, and then USB, Creality Cloud, and print history. So if we click on USB, there's nothing there because we need to plug it in. So let's go ahead and plug this thumb drive that came with the pad, and if we click on it now, we can see that there's something on there. Is because I threw a file in there, which is a Benchy to get started with. So it didn't come with anything, unfortunately, but I think if you connect it to your network, you can access the cloud and maybe pull some stuff from there. So, and we're going to jump to the slicer here in a little bit and check out how you slice a print for the Sonic Pad. All right, so let's go ahead and start it. And this is what we see. And I got some filament purged already. So we do have some information here about the print. Apparently no preview, which is interesting because I did use Creality Slicer. So if everything looks good, we're going to click on print and it's going to start it. And yeah, I'm kind of surprised that there's no preview. Maybe there's a setting we got to change in the slicer to see that. But we're going to go over all this in a second here. I'm not sure how well you guys can see it, but all right, and it started. So far, nothing too out of the ordinary, operating about what is normal there. It does seem to move faster though overall. And we're purging. And our offset does appear to be perfect, so that's good. So yeah, we seem to have some kind of booger there underneath. I don't know if you guys can see that, but it is printing. And it's actually pretty quick. Alright, there it goes. Now it's really going quick. So yeah, I guess the first few layers it was kind of taking it easy, but now it's kicked into higher gear. It's much quicker than originally. So as it's printing, let's go ahead and look at the screen and see what kind of options we have there. Alright, so this is what we see while we're printing. We got the preview here that's not previewing anything. The percentage circle, which is at 5%. File name, the nozzle temperature and the target. The bed temperature and the target. The X, Y, and Z coordinates. The speed, the flow, the fan. Since we started printing, 6 minutes and 7 seconds. Remaining time is 1 hour and 18 minutes. So yeah, that's actually pretty quick for a Benchy. And a number of layers, 240, and we're on 13. And on the bottom we got pause, adjust, and configure. So if we click that, it's going to pause or stop, adjust. Here we get another menu with Z step adjustments, which you can do it on the fly here, up or down. The speed, plus and minus. The flow rate, plus and minus. And then we got temperature and fan. And down here we got increments or units. So if we go back, we got configure, and these look like the more normal settings that you have during the main menu. So yeah, I don't think you can really do much here while you're printing. So yeah, pretty good options here and a lot of useful information and very nicely laid out. It only took us a couple minutes to look at the screen and look how much the Benchy already printed. Wow, that's impressive. That's really quick. Curious of how the quality is going to come out. But looking at it, I can tell it's not perfect. But it is going really quick, which is the whole point of this thing. Alright, so we finished our first print, and I actually printed another one in black, so maybe we could see a little better. But yeah, that was definitely a pretty quick print. The reason it probably looks the way it does. So yeah, overall not bad, but one of the sides here had a pretty severe defect, maybe just not adhering correctly or what, and kind of see there. Yeah, I would say, you know, pretty rough looking, even for the time that it printed in, but definitely not horrible, which is quite interesting. Now this black one is exactly the same. But interestingly enough, it actually turned out a little better. So we do have a lot of vibrations and ghosting. But other than that, this one definitely looks much better. A lot more promising for the Klipper printing with the Sonic Pad. I did slice this in Creality software for the Sonic Pad. And to be honest, I expected a little better results. But I think we're missing a very key feature here, which is our G sensor that we need to install somewhere on the hot end and then calibrate it so all the vibrations and ghosting can hopefully be accounted for. And so installing the sensor is not too hard. Let's grab the cable we need, plug it in the back in the sensor plug. The hardware harder part would be to install the sensor itself to the hot end. Move these. And they do include a bracket that you can print, which mounts on here, but you do need longer bolts. And the way you have to mount it is in the coordinates of X and Y. So it has to be like this in order for it to register the axes correctly. Now what I'm going to do, instead of printing out a bracket, is I'm just going to release one of these bolts from the CR Touch. And then I'm going to grab the sensor and install it on the top here. And I do have a little bolt, which is a 3mm. It's longer than the one that installs there, which we can mount it straight to the frame and it'll be very rigid, so it's not going anywhere. And so now all we got to do is plug in the other side into the sensor. And just like that. And now we are ready to do our calibration. So hopefully you guys can see that, but we're going to click on configure, then other settings, and then go down to advanced options. And then from there a little bit down to measuring resonance. So we'll click that and it'll take us step by step here. Pick this up so you guys can see maybe a little better, but yeah, it's asking us to install the sensor for the X and Y. Now according to this graph, it looks like that the wire has to go to the back, but I don't think that matters because the Y and X should be the same. Yeah, hopefully that doesn't matter. Let's go to next. Okay, so it says that it sees the sensor. Start the test. So it is gonna home. Zoom you guys in just a little bit there. All right, there it goes. So now it's going side to side. So it's starting with like slower oscillations and going to really quick. So it's really vibrating and you don't want to touch the printer at all right now. So I can definitely hear it doing something. Must be vibrating at very high pitch. It's actually some vibrations coming out from the head itself. You guys can probably hear that. So it's doing the X right now, and I'm wondering if it's going to do the Y as it's going to do the same thing to the bed. That'll be pretty interesting. Oh yeah, there it goes. So it is actually now moving the bed back and forth. So you guys probably can't see it very well, but yeah, it's shaking the bed now, which is quite interesting. So this would probably really help if you had a glass bed. But if you have like this PEI sheet, well, it's not a PEI, I think it's a PE sheet. Oh wow, it's vibrating pretty abruptly. Very interesting. But yeah, if you had like the glass, this would probably be a lot more effective as the glass is quite heavy. But with this kind of bed, it's quite lightweight, so yeah, but still very, very interesting how it measures all that frequency. All right, so that looks like that is complete. All right, so let's click on OK here. It says that it will save the data. We'll confirm that. And looks like it's going to restart. And there we go. Now we got our new parameters into the Sonic Pad. So we don't need this sensor here anymore. We can go ahead and unplug it and from the pad completely. And also we can go ahead and take it off, as I don't think it needs to be on there once it calibrates. Or at least that's what I think needs to happen. The instruction manual doesn't really say to leave everything on or not, but I guess we will find out. And so I think I want to go ahead and print out another Benchy in black, and we'll compare it to the previous one and see if we have any kind of improvement. So let's go ahead and start it. So yeah, as usual, a little bit vague on the, what you should be doing. I guess we kind of have to figure this out on our own. Alright guys, so I made some progress with the G sensor, and as you notice I got the pad on the other side, and that's because I went ahead and put it back on, as when I printed the Benchy after the calibration and took it off, as you guys will see, there was no difference that I could tell between the two, the very first one and the one that was calibrated for the resonance. So I decided to print one more Benchy by putting back the sensor and connecting it to the pad while printing, and I went ahead and ran it through the calibration again, and sure enough there was quite a significant difference after that. And I kind of temporarily just put one zip tie here to hold it, and it kind of is a good length to go around here with the original cables and back around and long enough to reach on that side. So naturally this is why the pad is on this side, as the wiring makes more sense. Alright, so let me show you guys the first two Benchies here. So this one here is the original one, and this is the one that we enabled the resonance calibration, and as you guys can see there's no difference between them. Hopefully you can see, but they're literally identical. You can kind of see the patterns there. Basically the same thing. Hopefully you saw that. And now let's compare it to the latest one, which is the sensor being connected to the pad while printing. So this is the new one, and you guys can see, well, maybe you can see, there's quite a bit of difference. It's not a huge difference, but there is a difference. So if you look right here, you can see there's quite a bit of ringing there. And on the new one, it's almost gone. So it definitely gets rid of the ringing. Another place we can tell is on the back here. So this is the resonance feature at work. And this one here is the original one. You can see those lines. So yeah, it definitely gets rid of the lines there very well. But yeah, if I would have to say, it's a very substantial improvement over not using the G sensor on the print head. So far I'm pretty happy how the Sonic Pad is performing, but I think we need to slice something else, maybe something more simple that will be quicker. I'm thinking calibration cube. All right, so here we are at the computer, and I got the thumb drive plugged in. Let's go ahead and open it up. So here we have the PDF of the manual, and it's pretty much the same thing that you get in paper form. So we get a couple slicer files, one for Windows and one for Mac, which is called the Creality print. And then we have 3 brackets here that they include depending on what printer you have that you can print out to mount the G sensor. So here we have a picture of a mount to the S1 Pro, and then just a regular Ender-3 without the BL Touch, and then we got Ender-3 with the CR Touch. And it looks like it completely replaces the bracket here with this printed one. So yeah, it's nice that they included these files, and I think this is the one that we need here. So in any case, let's go ahead and install the Creality print, and I'm using Mac, so this should be pretty simple. We're just going to drag into applications, and it's going to install. Now we can go ahead and open it up. And this is what it looks like. So up here, we can click on the little tab, and we'll click on add. And here you guys can see all of the Creality printers. So if we go down to Sonic Pad, you can see we can actually add the Ender-3 version 2. So let's go ahead and do that. So let's go ahead and drag a calibration cube in there, and if we click on it, you guys can see there's another menu that comes up here on the side. And you know, if you used any kind of slicer, this would be quite similar, just looks a little different, the layouts. Move, scale, rotate, clone. You can actually add your own lettering to it, and some more options here like split. Now the more interesting ones are going to be on this side. So you guys can see we have profiles right here that are pre-made. Since we're going to be printing PLA, we can click either on speedy or balance. So let's click balance, and it kind of gives us a little overview there of everything. So down here we can click on edit profile. If we do that, we can kind of mess around with it a little more, and if you want to adjust even more, click on advance, and here we can go through every single thing here a little more accurately. So I think I want to go ahead and do this real quick. So 0.2 layer height is good. Initial should be fine, I guess. Let's see, shell. Okay, so wall count, I like to change to 3. Top layers to 5. Fill gaps between wall, we'll just turn that off for now. Go into infill, 10%. It's probably a little low. I'm going to go to 15. Under materials, we got the temperature. Well, let's turn this to 210 as we're going to be printing quicker. And initial printing, and the first layer, we'll go to 215. So we're going to change the build plate temperature initial layer at 65. And here we have speed. So it's set at 120 right now, which is pretty quick. Let's go ahead and start with 80. And so you can see it does the walls at half speed, which is pretty normal and should look really good at this kind of setting. So I'm going to do like 80, 100, 120, and then 150. And we'll also try 200. We're going to travel. We got enable retractions. The distance, I think this needs to be a little higher, probably 6 millimeters. And under travel, guys, up here you can see it says advanced and expert. If you click on expert, there's actually more stuff that's going to come up. And if you scroll down and see retract before outer wall, so I like to turn that off as it usually makes prints come out a little better. So let's go back to advanced. So going to cooling, everything looks good here. Supports, we're obviously not going to use, but if you are, you can generate them and put in the parameters here. Build plate adhesion, I want to turn that to skirt with 3 lines around the print, and then it'll start printing. And in special mode, we also have a little checkbox here for spiralized mode. So if you want to print one layer all the way around. And that's pretty much it, guys. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. So we'll click save. So let's go ahead and slice it. So there's a start slice button here. And there we go. So it's sliced. Zoom in into this cube a bit. So you guys can see that's a little preview there, and up here it says how long it's going to take, 28 minutes. So actually that's quite a bit faster already than normal. Normally it takes me about 40 minutes. Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and click the export button down here. So here's that file. I'm going to drag it into the thumb drive. And now I'm just going to go back by pushing cancel preview. We'll adjust our slice again for the speed from 80 to 100. Click save, slice it again. So now it's going to take us 27 minutes. Export. We'll rename this one 100. Go back again. Make a 120. Slice it. So now we got 26 minutes. So you guys can see we're not saving that much more time as the print is quite small. But nevertheless, we'll see what the print quality looks like at different speeds. And that's about it, guys. So yeah, hopefully this was a little bit useful here on how to get started. And if you use the Creality print software, you can see that they have the Sonic Pad here. So yeah, let's go to the printer, print these things out, and see what they look like. Alright guys, so we printed out quite a few of calibration cubes, 7 to be exact. And if you guys notice here, we got a calibration cube all by itself and also a benchy. And these are actually printed on the original software that comes with the printer at 50 millimeters a second. So we can compare how well the Klipper software printed and the time it took. Now all these calibration cubes were pretty similar in time wise, starting from about 27 minutes down to 15 minutes. So yeah, considering the original calibration cube took 40 minutes, going to 27, it's a pretty good step down, which by the way is printed at 80 millimeters a second. As you guys saw, we sliced this thing, and I did mark them on the bottom to know which is which. Kind of hard to see, but this one is at 80. And let's go ahead and compare it, this 80 Klipper, to the 50 on the original file. So here, this is going to be the original. See if we can get a good lighting here. And this is the Klipper at 80. So the 80 on the Klipper, it looks very similar to the 50 that took 40 minutes, and this took 27. And on the Y, we can see that the original 50 is quite a bit cleaner, and we have more vibrations on the 80. So the X wall actually looks very good, and the Y wall actually looks very good compared to the ghosting we had on the actual letter. So yeah, and tops look pretty similar also. So the whole point here is that if you use the Klipper software, you can really speed up the prints. So let's go through this real quick. So what we saw was 80. This is 100. So you can see, still looks pretty good. We got a lot more ringing on the Y. X wall, we can start seeing some breakdown here on the edges, but still very solid and clean looking cube. 120 on the X, the Y, and you guys can see that Y kind of cleaned up. The ghosting still there, but doesn't look as choppy. X wall, corners are breaking down a bit, and the Y wall. 150, looks pretty decent, but quite ghosty. The Y is very ghosty. The X wall, not bad, but breaking down on the corner. And the Y wall. Here we have 200. Again, very ghosty and starting to break down on the letter there. The Y. The X wall. The corners, not terrible, but it is starting to disintegrate there. And the Y wall. And the time we're saving as we're going is very incremental, maybe about a minute to 2 for each speed change. So this is at 250, guys. Pretty quick printing. And this took about 18 minutes or so. And you can see that it's held up pretty well. It is kind of starting to break down on those corners on the letter. The Y also, not too bad actually. The X wall, we can start to see this weird pattern inside of it. The corners really breaking down. And the Y wall, and surprisingly the top still looks reasonable considering the speeds. So this cube here, I printed in 2 halves. The bottom half was about 375 millimeters a second, and the top half is 500 millimeters. And if you guys can tell, maybe it's not a big difference between the top and the bottom. So I'm thinking the software is just limited here, or the accelerations are not exaggerated as much. But yeah, this is a very quick printed cube at about 15 minutes, which is still, I guess, not that quick. But yeah, everything is in 0.2 layer height, 210 on the nozzle and 60 on the bed. And you guys can see the corner still held up reasonably considering the speeds we're going at. So yeah, one thing to consider is that, you know, the larger the model that you print, the bigger effect all of this will have. Meaning a small calibration cube going from 40 minutes to 15 minutes is a huge difference. And if you're going to print something large. Now, as you guys can see, the quality does break down the faster you go. And that's very obvious and something that has to do with physics. And whenever you move a mass so quick, you know, there's going to be slop in the system. As in, you know, you can't move something heavy so quickly without having a negative effect. Now, it's possible that I could have tightened my belts maybe a little more and adjusted to get better quality, but the whole point here is that we can see that the Klipper software on the Creality Pad does help us print faster and could be very useful for time-sensitive printing, especially for certain prints that don't have too many retractions or complicated shapes. And I really do think you can fine-tune all of this to have even much better results at really fast speeds. Is definitely key. It's because of this example here. So we got the 100 and then 120 millimeters a second. So the 120 millimeters a second actually looks better than the 100, and it really shows us on the Y especially. You guys can see the faster one actually has less vibrations than the slower one. Yeah, just bumping it up 20 millimeters a second gave us a cleaner print, and our edges still retained nicely and look practically the same. So yeah, finding the perfect speed or optimizing for it will give you the best results. And also guys, before I forget, to show you the original printed benchy with the Klipper benchy. So the original print's at about 2 hours. You guys can see it looks really nice and clean. And then the Klipper one here is at 1 hour and 20 minutes or so. And you can see that it did a really good job considering it did it twice as quick. Yeah, again, you know, if you want the perfect quality, you will have to obviously slow down. But if you want efficiency with minimal quality loss, the Sonic Pad with the Klipper software will definitely give you that. So yeah, I think the Sonic Pad is quite unique, and I'm pretty sure that I haven't showed you even half or maybe even less than that of what the Sonic Pad can do and be capable of. You obviously can remote print. If you connect to the Wi-Fi, there's quite a bit more features. And if you do want to get into Klipper, this might be the best way if you already have an Ender-3 printer, as this is very compatible with the S1 Pro, the S1, and the Ender-3 version 2s here. So I hope this video was somewhat helpful. Again, I'm more of a hardware kind of person, so software is not my strong point, and I do apologize if I didn't present everything correctly. But with that said, if you are interested in the Sonic Pad, I'm going to have some links in the description. Check it out. It's a really hot product that goes fast. And if you did enjoy this video, then hit that like button. And if you enjoy videos like this, check out my 3D printing playlist. I'm sure you'll find something interesting there. And also check out the review of this printer and other great printers that I have. Also guys, I do have a new 3D printing channel called Just Print, where eventually I will be moving everything 3D printing to there. And there's more 3D printing videos to come, so stay tuned. And as always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.